Today I am going to start 10th class first chapter real number. So for study of this chapter real number, first we should know the various types of the numbers. If we are having the knowledge of the various types of the numbers, then we can easily to understand about the real number. So numbers are basically two types, either real numbers or imaginary numbers. We can categorize numbers in two ways, real numbers, imaginary numbers. नंबर्स को हम दो टाइप से कैटेगराइज कर सकते हैं, रियल नंबर्स एंड इमेजिनरी नंबर्स. नाउ आवर फर्स्ट चैप्टर इज अ रियल नंबर. सो we'll discuss about the real number well, but before this study of the real number, first I am going to discuss about imaginary number. What I am saying? I am saying numbers are two types. One is the real number, another one is imaginary number. For studying of the real number, it is our first chapter, but before this one I am going to discuss only small things about the imaginary number, because whatever number we studied till 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -7, 0, these all are real numbers. These all are what? Real numbers. Till 10th standard we are using real numbers. After this standard we will discuss some more numbers like imaginary numbers, complex numbers. So इस क्लास के अंदर 10th स्टैंडर्ड का जो फर्स्ट चैप्टर रियल नंबर है उसको अच्छे से समझने के लिए हमें सबसे पहले नंबर्स का नॉलेज होना बहुत ज़रूरी है. नंबर्स जो आते हैं वो टू टाइप्स के होंगे, इधर रियल और इमेजिनरी. So before starting real number, I am just giving basic idea of the imaginary number. It is not in our syllabus, just I am giving some idea what about the imaginary number and what is the difference between real number and imaginary number. So imaginary numbers are what? Square root of negative numbers. Square root of negative numbers. Have you ever heard about the negative numbers in a square root? We are finding positive numbers root. Can we find square root of the negative numbers? No. Negative numbers square root is not possible. Negative numbers square root is not possible. If negative numbers are in the square root, what is the square root? This one. This is the square root of 4. So we want the square root of 4. We know well square root of 4 is a 2. But once we put negative numbers in this square root like this, root of -4 is not -2. It is not 2. It is a different. So what we can say, square root of negative numbers, square root of a negative numbers is what? Imaginary numbers. So how we will find this one? We will split this one like this. Root of -4 can be written as -1 into 4, no doubt. Root of -1 into 4. We know well what we studied earlier. Root of, if two real numbers are in the root of a into b, root of a into b, in the 9th standard we studied root of a into b can be written as root of a and root of b. We can do like this. Root of ab can be written as root of a into root of b. So what I am doing there, I am writing root of -4 equal to root of -1 into 4. So now applying this formula there, root of ab, a is a -1, b is a 4. Can I write like this? Yes, we can written this way. So this root 4, we know well root 4 is what? 2. But root -1 is a iota. What is the iota? Iota is, this is the imaginary number, iota. I equal to what? I OT iota. This is the iota. So I equal to, this is called iota, and it is showing what? Imaginary number. So its value is what? Its value equal to what? This one equal to this I having the value root of -1. So root of -1 equal to I, and it is showing iota, and it is the imaginary number. So we are splitting the number like this, and we are separating this one, and this value will be what? I, and it is called imaginary. So once we are having I in the number iota, then this is called what? Imaginary number. So this is basic idea about the imaginary number. So in this class we'll discuss more about the real number. We are having the chapter first, real numbers. Numbers are basically two types, either real number and imaginary numbers. Imaginary numbers are what? Square root of negative numbers. Like this I explained well. If we are having negative numbers in a square root, that is not possible. It is what? Imaginary number. Now come on there. Real number. What is a real number? Real numbers are whatever numbers we are studying till, all are the real numbers. Yes or no? Real numbers. Clear? In the 9th standard number system we used several numbers. In the 8th standard first chapter rational number we used several numbers, real numbers. And in the 7th standard we used what? Integers. These all are the real numbers. So we'll discuss their real numbers. Now first one, real number is two types, either integers or decimal. रियल नंबर्स जो होते हैं या तो इंटीजर्स होंगे या डेसिमल्स होंगे. वी ऑल्सो नो अबाउट द नंबर लाइन. नंबर लाइन इज व्हाट? हैविंग सम नंबर्स 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on, -1, -2 and so on. This is what? Number line. And it is also called what? Horizontal number line. So number line having numbers, positive numbers. These are what? Positive numbers. These numbers are called positive numbers. 0 and negative numbers. Number line having three types of the number: positive numbers, 0 and negative numbers. Now we are having real numbers. We are talking about the real numbers. We will discuss about real numbers one by one. So before studying real numbers, I am taking their number line. And what about the number line? Number line is a line having numbers, positive numbers, 0 and negative numbers. Clear? Now come. In the number lines we are having various numbers: 1, 2, 3, 0, -1, -2 and so on. In which 1, 2, 3 they are the counting numbers. What are they? Are the counting numbers. What are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? These are the counting numbers. I am having marker. How many markers I am having? Only one. I am having only one marker. So this one is the counting. Now how many markers I am having? 2. So this 2 is a counting number. They are used for the counting of the things. So 1, 2, 3 and so on, positive counting numbers. They are called positive numbers. Positive numbers are so many. 0 to 1 we are having infinite numbers. In between 0 to 1 we are having infinite numbers. 1 and 2 we are having so many numbers. But these numbers 1, 2, 3 they are the counting positive integers. What? Counting positive integers. Positive numbers are so many. From these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 up to infinity, they are what? Counting positive integers. Clear? Now counting positive integers are represented by capital N. What? Represented by capital N. N equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. These are called what? Natural number. These are called what? Natural number. I am discussing real number, and real numbers are having two types, either integers and second one is decimal. Listen, In the number line, we are having so many numbers, either positive, 0 and negatives. From these numbers, some are the integers and some are the decimals. In the number lines, we are having all real numbers. On the number lines, we are having all real numbers, either in the integer form or in a decimal form. These numbers 1, 2, 3, 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 and so on. These complete numbers are called integers. What about this? We will discuss later about the integers. These complete numbers 1, 2, 3, 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 and so on. These are called integers. But in between two integers, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, minus 1 and minus 2, in between these two integers we are having so many decimal numbers. And in the decimal numbers we will use point. Like this. 1.532, 1.53 so on, 1.72 up to infinity. So these are called decimal numbers. Decimal numbers are having point and they are in between of the two integers. So what is the difference between real number having two types, integers and decimals? Integers are complete numbers. On the number lines we are having so many numbers, positive numbers, 0 and negative numbers. From these numbers, complete numbers 1, 2, 3, positive counting numbers are called what? Positive counting numbers. In between these numbers we are having infinite numbers, so many numbers, and they are either in the decimal form or fraction form. Fraction is also a decimal. Fraction to decimal we can convert. So either decimal or fraction. So in between we are having decimal forms. So we are having real numbers are categorized in the two way, either integers or decimal. हमारी नंबर लाइन के ऊपर या तो कंप्लीट नंबर आपको नजर आ रहे हैं 1, 2, 3, 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, या तो कंप्लीट नंबर है या पॉइंट वाले नंबर होंगे. इनके बीच में जो नंबर्स है वो डेसिमल में होंगे, पॉइंट के अंदर होंगे. सो I hope you are getting these things easily. Now first one is the integers. Now first I am taking integers. Integers are called complete numbers. What are the integers? I mentioned there integers are denoted by z or I. Sometimes we can use I also. No problem in which. Z equal to minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. These are what? Integers. And integers means complete values. Integers are having three parts. One is the counting numbers, 0 and negatives of the counting numbers. So what about the integers? Integers are having counting numbers, and counting numbers are called what? Natural numbers. In the counting numbers, once 0 is included, then what we are getting? Whole number, and whole is denoted by W, 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. These are called what? Whole numbers. If now what is remaining? Negatives counting numbers are remaining. If negatives counting numbers are included in the whole number, then we are getting integers. Minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. So listen carefully what I am saying. I am having one topic there, real number, and real numbers are two types, either integers or decimals. For understanding this one, we first know the number line. This is the horizontal number line having so many numbers. All numbers, integers and decimals are on the number lines. So on the number line, complete values like 1, 2, 3, they are called counting numbers, and counting numbers are called what? Natural numbers. If 0 is included in these numbers, then we are getting whole numbers. And third one is the integer, and if in the whole numbers negatives of the counting number, negatives of counting numbers means what? Minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 and so on. If we included in the whole numbers, then we are getting integers. So this is about the integers. Integers are having counting numbers, 0 and negatives of the counting numbers. Counting numbers are called natural numbers, and if 0 is included in the counting numbers, we are getting what? Whole numbers. So all naturals are whole, all wholes and naturals are integers. All naturals are whole, all wholes and naturals are integers, but vice versa is not true. All wholes are not naturals, all integers are not whole, not natural. All naturals are integers, all wholes are integers, all naturals are whole, but all wholes are not natural numbers. All integers are not whole. All integers are not naturals. Clear? तो ये सारे के सारे नंबर नेचुरल नंबर इसके अंदर है, ये सारे इसके अंदर है, बट वाइस वर्सा ये सारे नंबर नेचुरल में नहीं है, ये सारे इंटीजर्स न तो होल में है न नेचुरल में है. सो वाइस वर्सा इज नॉट ट्रू. What we are studying? We are studying real numbers, and real numbers are two types, either integers or decimals. Integers are complete numbers, positive counting numbers, zero and negatives of the counting numbers. Positive counting numbers are called natural, zero is included, then whole, and finally integers. If negatives of the counting numbers are included in the whole, then what we are getting? Integers. Okay. Now decimals. Now what about the decimals? Decimals are categorized in the two way. They are two ways. Either they are terminating or non-terminating. Decimals दो हो सकते हैं, या तो terminate होगा या non-terminate होगा. How about the terminating? Terminating means like this number 0.5. This is what? Terminate. Non-terminating means non-terminating is also we categorize in the two ways, either repeating and non-repeating. If we are having number like this 0.333 and so on, this is a what? Non-terminating but repeating, but in which what? 3.1415 and so on. Non-terminating, this is a non-terminating but non-repeating. We are getting different values on the after point. So decimals are two types, either terminating and second one is non-terminating. Terminating numbers are terminate. In the terminating decimal numbers we are getting remainder equal to 0, but non-terminating we never get what? Remainder equal to 0. We never, कभी भी हमें रिमाइंडर जीरो नहीं मिलेगा. किसके अंदर? नॉन टर्मिनेटिंग के अंदर. बट टर्मिनेटिंग के अंदर व्हाट वी आर गेटिंग? रिमाइंडर इक्वल टू 0. बट नॉन टर्मिनेटिंग वी आर गेटिंग some values, again and again we will get something. So in which remainder is not 0, but in which we are getting remainder equal to 0. So like this number, this is called terminating, but these numbers, this is the non-terminating repeating, and this one is what? Non-terminating non-repeating. This is the repeating number, so we can also write this one like this 0.3 bar. We can use bar. Bar means this 3 number is after point 3 is repeating again and again. It is going 3 3 3 and so on. So and repeating is also called what? Recurring. So we can say real numbers are two types, integers and decimals. Integers are complete numbers, natural numbers, whole numbers, and decimals are terminating or non-terminating. Terminating means remainder will 0, non-terminating means remainder will not equal to 0. Like these number, these are the terminating or these are the non-terminating number. Now I am going to discuss some other types of real numbers. So in the some other types we are having rational numbers and irrational number. In the 9th standard we studied about the rational and irrational number. Just I am giving some basic idea about the rational numbers and irrational numbers and how they are making real number. So for getting the real numbers, first we should know rational numbers. So what about the rational numbers? Rational numbers. In the rational numbers, one word is using ratio. What about the ratio? Ratio is A is to B. This is the ratio. And it can be written as A upon B. And this is what? This is division. And division is also called quotient. So we can say rational numbers are represented by Q. So notation of the rational number is denoted by Q. Now, so in the rational numbers we are having ratio. So we can say rational numbers are expressed in the form of P upon Q. What about the rational numbers? Rational numbers are expressed in the form of P upon Q, where PQ are what? Integers. We studied already integers. So these P and Q are integers for counting numbers, 0 and negative counting numbers. We can put there at the place of the P and Q. But Q should not be equal to 0. So हम P एंड Q की जगह इंटीजर्स में से कोई भी वैल्यू रख सकते हैं, लेकिन Q की जगह 0 नहीं रखेंगे. Why? Once we put Q equal to 0, once we are putting Q equal to 0, P upon 0, we are having denominator equal to 0. It means what? Denominator of any number is 0, then function is undefined and infinity value we are getting. So we cannot put Q equal to 0. From integers we can put any value at the place of the P and Q, but we cannot put Q equal to 0. Why? Because once we put Q equal to 0 we are getting infinity value. So we cannot put. Now next one, in the rational numbers, all integers, whatever integers we studied, these all integers are rational numbers. So rational numbers are having all integers. How? Once we put denominator part equal to, like we are having rational numbers -1, -2, -3, 0, 1, 2, 3. If we are putting 1 in the denominator, we are getting P upon Q form. So we can say all integers are rational numbers. Now next one, rational numbers are terminating decimal expansion. Terminating decimal expansion. These terminating decimal expansion means these numbers. Terminating decimal expansions are what? Rational numbers. What? Rational numbers. And second one is non-terminating repeating decimal expansion. Non-terminating repeating. Non-terminating repeatings are what? Rational numbers. Rational. Non-terminating repeatings are rational numbers. So again I am revising. Rational numbers are expressed in the form of P upon Q. PQ are integers, but Q should not be equal to 0. Why Q should not be equal to 0? Once we put Q equal to 0, we are getting infinity. So we cannot put. And second one, all integers are rational numbers. Third one, all integers. These all integers are what? All integers are rational. It means all integers are rational means integers are having counting numbers, 0 and negatives of the counting numbers. It means all of these numbers are natural, whole numbers, integers. These all numbers. Why? Integers are having all naturals, all wholes are what? Rational numbers. All are the rational numbers. All are the rational numbers. So rational numbers are all integers. All integers are rational, including all numbers, natural, whole, integers. Complete numbers. In the decimal, how many numbers are rational? Terminating decimals, like this number 1/2. Once we solve, we are getting 0.5. This is a terminating. Terminating decimal expansions are rational. Non-terminating repeating expansion. Non-terminating repeatings are what? Rationals. So I explained only rational number. These all are rational number. Now only one thing is remaining. Non-repeating. Non-repeating will be what? Irrational. Remaining category will be what? Irrational. This one. Irrational. What decimal? Non-terminating, non-repeating decimal expansion will be irrational. So in this way, what I am explaining, rationals and irrationals. and both are very important for the real numbers. Without knowing these, we cannot understand the real numbers. Real numbers, we are having various numbers, नेचुरल नंबर्स, होल नंबर्स, इंटीजर्स, डेसिमल्स के अंदर हमने टर्मिनेटिंग, नॉन टर्मिनेटिंग इन सबको पढ़ा है. बट नाउ आई एम हैविंग व्हाट, रेशनल्स एंड इरेशनल. रेशनल्स आर एक्सप्रेस्ड इन द P upon Q. All integers are rational. So these all integers are having natural and whole. So we can say these all are what, rationals. And remaining terminating decimal expansion, terminating numbers, in the terminating we are getting remainder equal to 0. So terminating decimal expansion are rational. And in which, in the non-terminating repeating decimal expansion are rationals. So only one thing is remaining, non-terminating, non-repeating. In the non-terminating, non-repeating is what? After point we are getting different values up to infinity. They are not repeating. So these types of the numbers are called non-terminating, non-repeating. So in the irrational numbers, now I am first some examples I am writing there. Rational numbers. What are the examples of the rational numbers? Rational numbers are 1 by, some examples I am writing there. Rational numbers are expressed in the form of 1 by 2 in the P upon Q form. So minus 3 by 2, 1 upon 3, like these examples. 22 by 7, minus 2, 0, 3, these are the integers, and integers can be expressed like this. So these all are the rational numbers. Now जो रेशनल नहीं है वो क्या कहलाएगा, इरेशनल. और केवल ओनली वन थिंग्स वी आर रिमेनिंग इन द रियल नंबर्स, decimal, non-terminating, non-repeating. In the decimal expansion, if we are having non-terminating, non-repeating, then these types of the numbers are called what, irrational numbers. So जो rational नहीं है, जो P upon Q form में नहीं है, जो integers नहीं है, terminating नहीं है, non-terminating, repeating नहीं है, so only one category we are having, non-terminating, non-repeating. It means point के बाद हम अलग अलग numbers, different numbers we are getting up to infinity. So examples of irrational numbers are √2, √5, √15, pi, 3.1415 and so on, like this. So these are the examples of the irrational number, √2, √5, √15, pi and so on. How √2 is a irrational? We are having √2 equal to, after solving this root, what values we are having, 1.1, 1.4, not 1, 1.414 and so on. So we can say after point we are getting different values up to infinity. So it is the non-terminating, non-repeating. So √2 is a irrational. Similarly, √5, once we solve this root we are getting 2.236 and so on. After point we are getting different values up to infinity. So we can say this one is the non-terminating, non-repeating decimal expansion. So we can say this one is the irrational number. So we are discussing various types of the numbers. In the various types of the numbers, first I explained imaginary numbers, and then various types of the numbers we are having real numbers, and in the real numbers we studied natural numbers, whole numbers and integers. And integers are having counting numbers, zero and negatives of the counting numbers, and these all numbers are rational numbers. Then decimals are categorized into two types, terminating and non-terminating. Terminating, remainder equal to 0, non-terminating, remainder is not equal to 0. Remainder will never equal to 0. So it is two types, either repeating or non-repeating. After point, repeating blocks, one number is repeating, two numbers are repeating, but we are getting repeating blocks after point. Then that types of the number is called non-terminating, repeating. and non-terminating repeating decimal expansion and terminating decimal expansion are rational number, and remaining only one category we are having non-terminating non-repeating decimal expansion. In the non-repeating non-terminating non-repeating decimal expansion we are having after point different values up to infinity, like this: root 2, root 5, pi is a irrational number. Why? Pi is having standard value 3.1415 and so on. This is the value of the pi. 22 by 7 is a rational. Once we divide, we are getting repeating blocks, but in the pi we are not getting repeating blocks. So pi is not equal to not equal to 22 by 7. Pi is approximate equal to 22 by 7. Why? Once we divide, we are getting repeating blocks, and it is a rational number. 22 by 7 is a rational. It is approximate value of the pi. Exact value of pi is 3.14 and so on, in which we are getting non-terminating non-repeating values. So we studied rational, we revised rational and irrational numbers. Now main task. What is our main task? We are studying real numbers. Our chapter name, our first chapter of the your standard is what? Real numbers. And real numbers, how we will define? Observe how to define real numbers. Observe this one. This is the main task. So we studied various types of the numbers there. So we can say real numbers is the combination of rational numbers and irrational number. What we are saying? Listen, real number. We study rational expressed in the P upon Q form. All integers are rational. Terminating decimal expansion, non-terminating repeating decimal expansion are real numbers. Those which are not rational are called irrational, and it is what? Non-terminating non-repeating decimal expansion are irrational. Once we observe, numbers are there. On the real numbers, we are having either these types of either rationals or irrational, any other types we are having. Observe कीजिएगा, यहाँ पर या तो हमें rational मिल रहा होगा या irrational मिल रहा है. So हम ये कह सकते हैं, in the real numbers we are having sum of rational and irrational. All real numbers are sum of rationals or irrational. Every real number is a rational? No. Real numbers are combination of rational or irrational number. Real numbers are combination. It means in the real numbers we are having only two types of the numbers. Real numbers are having either rational and irrational. In the rational numbers we are having all integers, terminating decimal expansion, non-terminating decimal expansion. Only one thing is remaining, non-terminating, non-repeating, and that is called irrational. So finally, our chapter real number, and it is the combination of rational and irrational. So your first chapter is so simple and based on numbers, only numbers. From starting you are studying numbers. From first standard, from whenever you started your study, you are getting numbers, and in the 10th standard I explained and categorized what sort of the numbers we are discussing till. So till 10th standard we studied real numbers, and all real numbers, जितने भी numbers हम पढ़ रहे हैं, आपने जितने भी numbers पढ़े हैं, वो सारे के सारे क्या होंगे? Real numbers होंगे. Now after this one we'll discuss prime numbers and composite numbers. You know well, prime numbers is what? What about the prime numbers? Prime numbers are having two factors, either 1 and itself. Prime numbers are having two factors, either 1 and itself, like 2, 3, 5, 7, 11 and so on. These are what? Prime numbers. Once we factorize this number, 2 equal to what? 2 into 1 into 2, we can write 1 into 2. 3 equal to 1 into 3. 5 equal to 1 into 7. Any other? Not possible. But some numbers like this: 4, 2 into 2 into 1, 6, 2 into 3 into 1, 10, 2 into 5 into 1, like this. So, if number having only two factors, 1 and itself, is called prime numbers, and otherwise composite number. More than two factors, like these are composite numbers and these are prime numbers. Clear? So, in this standard, 10th standard, in the next classes, we will discuss about linked to prime factorization, and it is the first chapter, first exercise. First question is what? Prime factorization of the various number. In the prime factorization, we use prime numbers. 2 is the smallest prime number. What is the 2? 2 is the smallest prime number. 1 is neither prime nor composite. So, what we studied in this class, I am just revising. In this class, I started with discussing of the various types of the numbers. Broadly, numbers are two types: real numbers and imaginary numbers. Imaginary numbers are what? Square root of the negative numbers, and it is in the form of iota. Clear? This is the basic idea I was given in this class. Now, next one is the real number, and it is our first chapter, and it is combination of rational and irrational. Once we add rational or irrational, rationals and irrational, we are getting real numbers. But number lines, on the number lines we are having either integers and decimals. Integers are complete number like natural number, counting numbers, counting with 0, whole numbers, and integers negative counting numbers and wholes. Clear? Negative counting numbers, 0 and counting numbers. Clear? So these all are rational. Remaining decimals are terminating, non-terminating. Terminating means remainder will 0, rational number. Non-terminating repeating means we are getting repeating blocks, rational numbers. Non-terminating, non-repeating means after point we are getting different numbers up to infinity. This is irrational numbers. So, combination of rational and irrational will be what? Real number. Clear? And after, in the next class, we will discuss about the prime numbers in details with various types of the examples and which are linked to our exercise 1.1. Thank you so much.